3 of these park and rides belong together. 3 of these park and rides are kind of the same. But one of these park and rides is doing its own thing, and we call that park and ride King Lane. B-roll at King Lane Park and Ride, and welcome to the Every Bus vlog. King Lane Park and Ride is a bit of a mystery. It isn't a park and ride in any real sense of the word. It's a well-hidden free car park that happens to be served by several bus routes: the 7, 7A, 38 and 781. We're just going to focus on the first 2 of those today. There also used to be an express bus to Leeds from here, the X7, but that was canned and there's no sign of it coming back anytime soon. Here's some footage of my drive to King Lane. The site is located really awkwardly, and I'm not sure why it exists. Logic would suggest it's for people who are travelling in from the north along the A61, but it's a bit out of the way and there's no signs for it on the A61. In fact, there's very little signage for it at all, so it's probably not intended to attract the casual traveller. If we drive on the A6120, the outer ring road around the North Leeds commuter belt, we don't see any signs for it there either, whether we're travelling clockwise or anti-clockwise. All there is to encourage us to head up King Lane is a sign that says Parking, Shopping Centre. It's referring to Moor Allison Centre, which we'll get to on the way back. There's no mention of a park and ride at all. Here we're directly opposite the park and ride site, and the only signage is for the local school. I've looked and found precisely one sign, which is right at the entrance, and you'd only see it if you were already turning into the car park. So why would they build and presumably maintain a car park at a bus interchange and not even signpost it? I don't know. There are no facilities here, not even a ticket machine. There are no apparent parking restrictions other than parking in the marked bays. So let's head to the road and see what we can see. There's a school, some fields, some houses, 2 bus stops, and that's about it, really. Isn't that enough? Maybe for the people who live here, but when you've driven in and you're waiting 20 minutes for a bus, it's not ideal. The only plus to this site, aside from the general lack of parking restrictions, is that it's the only one that's open 7 days a week. Presumably because it would take more effort to come out and close it on Sundays than to just leave it open. There is CCTV here, but there are no staff on site. All the other sites are staffed during service hours, with certain also having a full operations office, but this one doesn't even have a building. About half a mile away there is the aforementioned Moor Allison Centre, which is actually a proper centre, and I do have some pictures to show you of that later on. But this is the first time we're starting an episode part way along a route, so before we head south towards Leeds, I want to go north and see what there is to see. The number 7 is a suburban route that runs north from Leeds railway station to King Lane, then continues to Primley Park. There's about 1 mile of route east of the park and ride, and it runs every 30 minutes. I rode the number 7 around. Along the route there's a co-op with some weird oversized fruit murals in these arch-looking things. Next to that, a pub. Then the number 7 ends, rather abruptly, near this nondescript building. I tried knocking, but I'm guessing I don't know the secret knock because they wouldn't let me in. I'm not going to tell you who uses this building because I don't want to mess with the local Freemasons. Brackets, oh what a giveaway. Instead of going back to the park and ride, I had a wander up to Old Woodley proper to meet up with the 7A. The 7A is likewise a suburban route, this one having 2 miles of route to the north and northwest of the site. By average housing price, Old Woodley is the second poshest bit of North Leeds. Just have a look at the views up here and see for yourself. There's no real reason for me to get off at the park and ride, so I'm going to stay on the 7A as it heads down towards Leeds. As suburban stopping services, these buses are clearly not in competition with the proper park and ride services. And there are side streets I can park on closer to Leeds city centre with regular buses that'll get me into town quicker. Or I could just use the other park and rides. So, again, why does King Lane Park and Ride exist? The 7A wiggles around a bit on its way to the A61, the main road towards Leeds. We serve a small town, Moortown, then get on the A61 and don't leave it until we're in Leeds. Thanks to a number of guided busways along the route, We don't do a lot of waiting in traffic. From the time we left the park and ride site to the time we reached the terminus at Leeds railway station, it took 43 minutes, which is... oh, who am I kidding, it's not great. It's certainly not the speed I'd expect from a park and ride service, but we did get there, 3/4 of an hour later. All the buses I rode today were on time, there was plenty of seating available, and they're far from the worst looking of routes either. They feel more like a regional service than a suburban one with all the greenery along the way. But the route is only about 8 miles from end to end, 2 of which are north of the park and ride site. 9 miles an hour is a good pace in rush hour, but off-peak it's pretty dire. And the 7A, while pretty, only has a couple of points of interest along the route. I got off the 7A a short distance north of Leeds city centre. No real point getting off in Leeds either. I did get a bemused look from the driver, having been on board for both ends of the route before getting off at a random place along the route, but I had a day ticket, so no problems there. This seems like a good opportunity to talk about the 3 number 7 buses. See, I may not have told you the whole story. There's the 7A which brought me here, the 7 which I'm switching to here, and there's the 7S. Depending on your outlook on life, the S either stands for Shadwell or for Snot appearing in this video. Mostly because it doesn't go to the park and ride. The 3 buses alternate, each running every half an hour for a combined frequency of a bus every 10 minutes. They all share the southern half of the route, and the 7 diverges at this roundabout at Scott Hall. It'll meet up with the 7A again at King Lane Park and Ride. The 7S carries on up to Moortown, which we saw earlier, and instead of turning west and heading to the park and ride, it turns right and heads east to Shadwell. We'll cover the 7S at some point in the future, but not today. Scott Hall is really the only other point of interest along the 7A's route. There's a row of shops on the western side, and a medical centre and a leisure centre on the eastern side. Here I'm going to switch to the number 7. The 7A carries on north back the way we came, but the 7 turns left here, and a short distance later there are 3 little rows of shops, of which the number 7 bus serves 2. The first one we come to is this one, with 2 dentists, which are actually 1 dentist, and a Morrison's Daily, which is their convenience brand. Shortly after, there's a second row, which is hair and beauty and food, but it's on the other side of the road, so I didn't get a very good shot. Sorry about that. Anyway, the number 7 turns left here to head back to the park and ride, so I'm just going to get off and carry straight on foot. Half a mile later we come to this third row of shops, which is just off the A61. This makes much more sense to me. They must get plenty of passing trade. I'm sure the same can't quite be said for the other 2. But there are a lot of houses around here, so they probably do alright. Anyway, it's this third one we've come here for, and specifically this chippy, the talk of the town. It has 4.8 out of 5 stars on Google, with the reviews heaping lofty praise on it, so it's as good a choice as anywhere to pick up some lunch. I ordered a large sausage and chips with gravy. Came with scraps, sent me back a £5. It was utterly gorgeous. I could have had it in a box if I'd wanted, but why waste the packaging? I have a perfectly good lap. A short ride on the 7A later, we come to Moorallerton Centre. My phone was getting a little low on power here, so you'll have to pardon the switch to still photos. Most of the signage in the centre would imply that this is owned by Sainsbury's, who do have a large store further along, but the centre itself is occupied by a pub, this library and community centre, 2 gyms, a vet's, and a number of miscellaneous chain stores. Moorallerton proper is home to one of the largest Jewish communities in the UK. Sainsbury's serves them well, with not just 1, but 2 kosher aisles, the first I've seen in a supermarket. Also, there are signs up in the car park saying that long-term parking's available here for a fee of about £3 a day. Oddly, I haven't seen a single sign restricting parking. Believe me, I looked long and hard. I even double-checked on Street View just to make sure I hadn't accidentally missed filming one. So, unless I've missed something obvious, it seems like an opportunity to pay for a privilege they grant to everyone. I'm going to be coming back here at some point, as there are 2 buses from here, the 38 and the 39. They used to continue all the way to Morley, now they end in Leeds. So a short ride back up King Lane and back to my car at the park and ride. This seems like a good time to mention that park and ride tickets aren't valid on the number 7 buses. Standard bus fares apply. Right now, that's £2 each way for adult singles, or up to a £5 for a day ticket. There are various ways to travel for less, such as concession passes or pink M cards like the one I have, but no park and ride deals. With that, we've reached our final stop for today, and almost but not quite the final stop for this mini-series on the park and rides. There is a bit of final tying up of loose ends to do, which will be their own video. In the meantime, thanks for watching, remember to like and subscribe, and you know what? I'm glad I came here, it's been a good day out. I've seen a side of Leeds that I wouldn't normally see, because I'm not exactly rolling in money. Oh yeah, don't forget to thank your driver.